Motorsport's greatest circuit, a place with a rich history and also called the Green Hell, a place that has legendary victories and historic dramas. Located in an absolutely stunning location in Germany, we find the Nürburgring, a circuit that Formula One abandoned, but will never leave our hearts. The Nürburgring was born in 1927 after 2 years of development. 2,500 workers and a cost of $14 million resulted in a 28-kilometer track. They built the circuit as a showcase for German automotive engineering and racing talent, something they learned from Monza. Originally, the track had 4 configurations, which made it 28 kilometers long. Part of this was the Nordschleife and Südschleife, and that first one we'll touch on later in this video. The first race was also held in 1927. Drivers had never experienced something like that. A racetrack through the Eifel Mountains, 174 bends, and a view you could only dream of. It's an absolute stunner. If you see pictures of it or watch onboards of various racing series, you even get a wow feeling. During the evenings and weekends, when there was no race, the track was opened as a one-way toll road, something that is still the case nowadays. When the track is open during public days, you can drive on it with your own car, or test a car like Franz Hermann. Anyway, in the pre-war era of the circuit, multiple ringmeisters were born, people who mastered the circuit's challenges. The circuit even gave birth to the now iconic Silver Arrows. Yeah, I'm talking about Mercedes. They had a new car which was painted white and was over the weight limit. They scraped off the paint and won the Grand Prix. Better said, they dominated it for years. From 1940 to 1946, the ring didn't have any races as World War II was ongoing. The circuit and the facilities were used for soldiers. From 1947 onwards, racing started again. Not cars, but motorbikes began competing at the Südschleife before the big return to international motorsports, from which they'd been banned due to the war. On July 29, 1951, the Nürburgring became part of the Formula One World Championship. It was the German Grand Prix and the Nordschleife that became the most technically challenging on the F1 calendar. The first race was won by Alberto Ascari in a Ferrari, but it was Juan Manuel Fangio who truly mastered the ring. In 1954, Mercedes made their debut in Formula One, and the Argentinian won the race. It was the Silver Arrow's first Grand Prix victory in 15 years. He went on to win it 2 more times with different manufacturers. But the first cracks came in the late 1960s. Formula One cars went faster and faster, resulting in more danger and fatal accidents. Something needed to change. So, a new chicane was added to the circuit in 1967. This was before the start-finish straight and pit entry to reduce speeds. However, that wasn't enough. In 1968, the nickname the Green Hell was born. Jackie Stewart came up with it. He won the Grand Prix, driving through thick fog, pouring rain, and with close to no vision, winning with a 4-minute lead. He called it the Green Hell out of respect for the circuit, but also from fear. A circuit that demanded everything from you, and one little mistake could be the end. And so, a boycott was born. Due to multiple racing accidents, the drivers demanded change. A list of changes was proposed: safety barriers, runoff areas, removal of trees, and more marshals. The circuit needed 5 times more personnel than a typical F1 venue. The German Grand Prix relocated to the Hockenheimring, which was adjusted for safety. The reconstruction was completed, and Formula One at the Nürburgring continued. More safety measures were added in 1973, but the circuit was never marked safe in this period. The track and the Nordschleife were always dangerous. In 1976, a new boycott attempt came to Formula One. Legend Niki Lauda was the voice of the concerns. He was the reigning world champion and wasn't particularly happy with the safety arrangements of the circuit. All the modifications that were made weren't enough. However, he was outvoted by his fellow drivers. The new contract of the ring was from 1974 until 1976, which meant that it was already the last race. They planned to build a new and safer Grand Prix layout. The other drivers didn't want any legal dispute, and the safety issues were marked temporary. But if you're a Formula One fan from back in the day, you know what's coming next. August 1st, 1976 was a near-fatal day for Niki Lauda. That morning, he tried to boycott the race again, but again without success. What happened next? It brings shivers to my body. It was the second lap at the Bergwerk corner. His Ferrari went off the course and crashed at 200 km/h into an embankment. Flames erupted, and Lauda was trapped for 55 seconds. Severe burns and lung damage were the result. He was saved by a fellow driver, but the medical helicopter took 6 minutes to arrive. This marked the end of the Nordschleife era. It convinced the authorities that it was too dangerous for Formula One. And to be honest, I think that marked the downfall of the Nürburgring within the Formula One circus. They returned for the 1984 season after the constructions were complete. A 5-kilometer circuit with 16 corners, the legendary touring car race between the likes of Senna, Hunt, Lauda and Moss marked the beginning of the new circuit. But not for long, they disappeared again. New policies, commercial goals, and a mandate for countries to only host one national Grand Prix resulted in the German Grand Prix moving permanently to the Hockenheimring. That track was already updated, safer, and had a better relationship with Formula One. And if you watched my video about the Hockenheimring, you know that wasn't forever. Anyway, in all honesty, it was just a commercial move from our dear friend Bernie Ecclestone. He only wanted long-term contracts with circuits so they'd compete against each other. And what would be the result of that? Higher fees. It also secured financial stability, calendar control, and investment security from the circuit in their facilities. So, that 1984 Grand Prix, that was called the European Grand Prix as a revenue maximizer. What a marketing genius our Bernie is, isn't he? But that genius also made the Nürburgring disappear until 1995. Yes, until 1995, because a certain German driver had just become world champion, and he was loved, very loved. The Nürburgring, and honestly, also the Hockenheimring, got gifted a treasure, Michael Schumacher, a driver that brought the love for Formula One to an absolute high, and the demand for 2 German races was through the roof. But they didn't know it would be such a success. Michael Schumacher put out an absolutely fantastic drive in '95, which made even his rival, Damien Hill, applaud him. It proved that even without the Nordschleife, the Nürburgring could be a classic Formula One race. And that made the case for a second German Grand Prix, which was mostly dominated by Schumacher. Incredible races followed, battles between Schumacher and Häkkinen, dominant displays with 13-second leads, and the Battle of the Brothers in 2001. It was an all-time high period, with huge numbers of attendance. This resulted in a 2002 modification of the circuit. The overtaking opportunities were limited, and the first chicane wasn't loved by drivers, and this was the birth of the Mercedes Arena. It increased the length of the circuit and opened up 10,000 more seats. That 2002 edition was a banger, a weather-impacted classic won by Rubens Barrichello, but the newly designed section wasn't loved by the drivers, so they wanted to redesign it again. But money was a problem. Schumacher himself donated a full day of his time to the circuit to raise money. Approximately $200,000 was made that day. The following years were good, but they slowly started to struggle. While Schumacher was still winning and showing his skills, the hosting fees slowly became a burden. Add high ticket prices to cover that, and you have a problem on your hands. By 2006, the year of Schumacher's last Grand Prix win at the Nürburgring, it became clear that they'd struggle in the future. As soon as the German left Formula One, the passion of the German audience did too. A dark period started, which just hurts as an F1 fan, to be honest. A financial catastrophe, mismanagement, and bankruptcy followed. In 2007, the fans that attended got a good wet weather race with a massive pile-up and a Fernando Alonso win. But from 2008 onwards, the circuit went into a rotation system with Hockenheim. Every other year they got a Grand Prix. Interest declined, and with this, they tried to keep F1 in Germany. But losing Schumacher wasn't the only thing that hurt them. In 2008, an economic crisis played its part too. BMW left, financial resources dried up, and the rotation system made it difficult to promote a Grand Prix. It divided fans as they had to choose which one they wanted to attend. While the Hockenheimring instantly struggled, the Nürburgring didn't. Fans still attended the race even with the crisis and the loss of the German legend. The numbers weren't spectacular, But hey, they could survive. In 2009, Webber dominated. He took his first pole position, got a drive-through, and still won with a big margin. In 2011, it was Hamilton who won the three-way battle between himself, Alonso, and Webber. In 2013, it was Sebastian Vettel who finally won his home Grand Prix. A charging Kimi Raikkonen couldn't stop him, but a German winning the Grand Prix, it didn't change the course of the track. With only 45,000 spectators, it was clear that the Nürburgring was finished. And then in 2020, we all cheered. The Nürburgring returned. We got a race at the legendary venue. But that was just a one-time show. It was a temporary solution. But oh man, I wish it had continued. Enough history lessons, Grand Prix recaps, and me getting all sentimental. What actually went wrong for them? How did such a historic Grand Prix disappear? Well, it's actually quite easy, but it deserves some context. It all comes down to financial challenges, something we've seen in my Hockenheimring, Malaysia, and India videos. It's always the same stuff that happens, but the Nürburgring, that also got affected by terrible management, and that's an understatement. But let's start at the beginning. In 2004, they were already struggling. They made a $22 million loss in the most popular era of the circuit. That was followed up by not being an annual race, which was another disaster for them. And as I said, the rotation system was just a total fail. Something needed to change, and that was Project Nürburgring 2009, a plan that wasn't only aimed at racing, but more about being an all-year entertainment destination. Hotels, a shopping mall, and a theme park were part of the plan. A €215 million plan that needed €80 million private funding. And what didn't happen? Yeah, the private funding part. However, in 2007, they started the project, which was followed by the grand opening in 2009. Sounds good, doesn't it? Well, wait a minute. They had a crown jewel, a project that wasn't done before, and something that had to attract people to the circuit. A roller coaster called the Ring Racer. With a launch from 0 to 100 km per hour in 2 seconds, it would be an absolute banger. And it did bang, or better said, explode. Weeks before the opening, they attempted to go the full speed of 217 km per hour. Multiple explosions, injured people, and it all ended with a financial spiral downwards. With an original budget of €215 million and an actual one of €400 million, you know where it went wrong. A total financial mismanagement. Top that up with a mysteriously disappeared €245 million, a fraudulent investor, and low attendance numbers, and it all sounds just sad. In 2012, they filed for bankruptcy with a total debt of €413 million. The Nürburgring was gone. There is the question I always ask in these videos: will the iconic circuit return? No, never. Even in this current age of Formula One's popularity, it won't happen. It's just a fever dream at this point. The current management ruled it out and called it financially impossible. With hosting fees going up to $35 million, it's just not doable for them. On top of that, they also need to hire personnel, provide entertainment, and a private company can't do that. But don't be sad, the Nürburgring is still alive and well. The Green Hell is too. Other race classes are still attending it, luckily. The circuit is, in that regard, still actively used, and that is just fantastic to see. But what about the other German circuit that's a fan favorite, a driver favorite, and a track that needs to be on the Formula One calendar? Discover everything about the Hockenheimring in this video.